We're talking states' rights and illegal immigration with Sheriff Richard Mack. Let's go. Exploring theology, doctrine, and all of the fascinating subjects in between, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, Dead Men Walking starts
now.
Oh, well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Dead Men Walking Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Moore. Thanks for joining us. You can find out more about us at DMWpodcast.com. Find us on the socials everywhere, Dead Men Walking Podcast, except for Twitter X, which is Real DMW Podcast. We appreciate you telling a friend. We appreciate you sharing the podcast. We appreciate you joining us today. A lot of podcasts out there, so I'm very grateful that you chose to spend some time with us, and we had a good one for this episode. We had Sheriff Richard Mack return. He was on about a year ago, and he is infamous for being a sheriff in Phoenix, challenging the federal government on the Brady Bill, went all the way to the Supreme Court, got a positive decision and ruling. Scalia wrote that decision, and talking about states' rights, we're talking about the illegal immigration issue, the border issue, what that looks like with Trump coming into office, and it was just a really good episode. Before we get into that, though, I do want to tell you about a few of our sponsors, and guys, we love our sponsors, we trust our sponsors, we recommend these sponsors, and we go through a rigorous process of making sure they're right for the show and we are right for them. So when I tell you about them, you can know that they've been vetted and that we would highly recommend them. Dominion Wealth Strategists, the only distinctly reformed financial company. I mean, these guys are awesome. Justin and Josiah doing things that in the reformed world for wealth management that are just phenomenal and good for you. Budgeting, debt management, savings, life and health insurance, retirement planning, estate planning, business services. They do it all. Their motto is all of Christ for all of life, all of finance for all of Christendom. Look, if we're talking about stewarding our money wisely, making our money work for us, where else would you want to go than another reformed brother in the Lord, reformed business? Book a meeting with them at reformed.money, my favorite URL ever. Obviously, you can click on the link below and get in touch with them. From baptism to burial, Dominion has you covered. Also, AdventDS, another brother in the Lord that they've been on the podcast before. Bruce with AdventDS started this company because he realized, look, there's businesses out there that are believers, that are Christian. They need someone to handle their websites, handle all their digital information, handle their SEO tags, all that stuff. They do it. Advent Digital Solutions, Christ Center software and web development company. And if you're looking to update your website, they're actually handling my website for Covenant Real Estate, the real estate brokerage that I own. So I trust them with my own business. You should trust them with your business. You can definitely check them out. You can send them an email at bruce@adventds.org or just visit the link below. Click it there. It's going to all be in the description below. And then, of course, our friend Andrew Rappaport got a book here, and actually I have this book. It's one of only 27 hard copies left, and I like it because it's also, look at that, it's also signed and a little note in there. But what do we believe right now? Great Christmas gift, great stocking stuffer. Guess what? For all Dead Men Walking listeners, free shipping on the book. Click the link below. You'll be able to purchase this book. Just a great theological statement of what is it actually that we do believe. Andrew Rappaport does a great job. Forward by Phil Johnson. Just a great book to have in your back pocket if you're witnessing or evangelizing. Also a great book to give to friends and family who might want a more easy read theological statement book. But right now, what do we believe? Free shipping on that. So you just pay for the book. We'll cover shipping. If you're a Dead Men Walking listener, click on the link below and that can be yours. So the episode was good with Sheriff Richard Mack. I mean, he's been famous and infamous for decades, and we had him back on the show, and he was talking about his organization, CSPOA, .org, which that is also in the link below too if you want more information on that. And what he's doing as a past sheriff, talking to sheriffs, local boards, county commissioners, talking about states' rights. We got into the border issue a little bit and what we can do as citizens of the United States that are just, look, we got regular 9-to-5s, we got a family to take care of, we got work, all these things, church. What can we do about the border? We just don't want to leave it in the hands of a Trump administration. Yes, it's great that we have Trump coming to office, and Sheriff Mack made the point of making sure he gets to office. Let's not forget we had assassination attempts twice on President-elect Trump. So make sure he gets there, and then what we can do as people, regular, normal citizens, to help, tamper down the tyranny of the federal government and make sure locals and states have their rights upheld. So it was a very good conversation. I think it only went about 30 minutes, which is just perfect. We went over some of those things. I think you guys are really going to enjoy the episode. I know I did. Anytime I talk to Sheriff Mack, I get fired up because he is just out there in the grind, doing the hard work, rallying the counties and the sheriffs and the commissioners and the supervisors and the trustees and the board members at the local level going, look it's really all about us. Government is strongest at its local level. We don't need federal bureaucracy and tyranny from the top down. We need constitutional laws from the ground up, from the locals up. So that's what we talked about. More of a political episode, but one that I found very informative and exciting and fun to talk about. So the next voices you'll hear will be me and Sheriff Richard Mack talking about those subjects. Here we go. Well, Sheriff Richard Mack, welcome back to the Dead Men Walking podcast. Good to have you back on again.
Well, thanks, Greg. It's great to be with you. Remind me why it's called Dead Men Walking.
So it's Dead Men Walking. It's based in Ephesians 2. We were once dead in our trespasses and sin, but now alive in Christ. So we talk about theology, doctrine, culture, politics. So as a scriptural reference, but believe me, I get a lot of people going, are you a zombie podcast? What are you,
Yeah.
What are you talking over there? So just a reminder that we're all dead in our trespasses and sins, but alive in Christ. And again, welcome back. For those who didn't kind of get to meet you the first time last year when you were on, can you give us a little origin story of Richard Mack and what you're all about?
Well, yes. I was in law enforcement about 20 years. I did everything imaginable in law enforcement. I started in Provo, Utah, and I was actually trying to get the FBI. I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps. He retired from the Bureau back in the 70s. And I'm so grateful that fate took me in a different direction. It just wasn't meant to be. And I stayed on with the Provo Police Department for 11 and a half years. And then my wife's parents had an epiphany, and they decided that I was supposed to move home to Arizona, where both my wife and I were from, and run for Graham County Sheriff in my hometown. And I said they were crazy. My wife said for them to leave me alone, that we weren't doing it, and we were perfectly happy where we were. And then my wife and I had the same epiphany, and we picked up and moved home to Arizona, ran for sheriff, miraculously won, and then miraculously won re-election in 1992. And then in 1994, I became the first sheriff in American history to launch a major lawsuit against the federal government to stop their overreach and to fight against the gun control known as the Brady Bill movement. There were 5 Brady Bills scheduled to be passed one year after another until the Second Amendment was completely destroyed. So 6 other sheriffs joined me in that lawsuit. Sheriff Prince and I ended up at the Supreme Court in December of 1996. And Justice Scalia, writing for the majority, gave one of the most powerful rulings in the history of our country, and without question, the most powerful 10th Amendment decision in the history of America. And this is a copy of the decision that I have put together. What I did, just so all your listeners and supporters and members know, that this is the most powerful book you could have in your pocket. It's very small, but you get them at CSPOA.org. Sorry, let me slow down. Okay. CSPOA stands for Constitutional Sheriffs Peace Officers Association. CSPOA.org. And order my other books. I have about 7 or 8 books, but this is the most powerful book you can have. It's the cheapest one. It's where we don't make any off of this. This is so America can see what the federal government can and cannot do. The most powerful state sovereignty, local autonomy case in the history of America. And one real quick quote, Justice Scalia quoted the New York decision of 1992 in this decision, and he said, we have held, however, that state legislatures are not subject to federal direction, end quote. They're not our boss. The states form the federal government, not the other way around. And the states have now got to exercise their authority to keep the federal government in its proper lane of jurisdiction. And so that's where we are today. And this decision gives all of us credibility. And you want to pass these around to your local public officials, especially your sheriff, chief of police, city council, county commissioners. Make sure you get one to the county attorney. But these are available, and they're very inexpensive. They're $3 for $5. And while you're there, join the CSPOA posse, which is all about helping you work with your sheriff and joining his posse.
Well, we'll make sure that we link that up too. So any of you guys that are watching this or listening to this, you can just click on the link below and it'll take you right to that pamphlet and that book that Sheriff Mack held up. I think this is an important discussion and really something that a lot of Americans don't understand, the value of states' rights. And actually the value of having locally elected officials and sheriffs that aren't authoritarian, but understand states' rights as well too. And unfortunately, I would say the majority of Americans don't really understand it. We don't really talk about it too much. And it's really been eroded by the federal government. I think you would agree. What I've seen when I'm working in my state capital is that we give up our power as states to the federal government because laws have been written in such a way to where we want to get some of that tax revenue back, to where a lot of states are giver states in roads and infrastructure and things like that. I live in Michigan. For every dollar we give the federal government, they give back 96 cents to us. And then they decide where the other 4 cents is going to go around the country. And there's all these things where the federal government says, yeah, we don't have the power, but if you don't do this, we won't fund that. And the states kind of give it up. And really, I think that goes back a little bit. I'd like your opinion on this, Richard. It really goes back to federal Congress making laws that erode states' rights as well, too. And the states just kind of laying down and taking it.
Not just eroding, but almost entirely demolished.
Yeah.
But let's go to Scalia on this decision.
Sure.
He addresses that topic that you just brought up. Let's see what he says. Federal grants. The government points to a number of federal statutes enacted within the past few decades that require the participation of state and local officials in implementing federal regulatory schemes. Oh, they're schemes, all right.
Right.
Some of these are connected to federal funding measures and can perhaps be more accurately described as conditions upon the grant of federal funding than as mandates to the states. So these are just conditions upon which we can get some of our money back. And I'm telling every governor and state legislature in this country, it's really stupid to allow the federal government to come in and steal all our money and then promise to send us back 2 or 3%. You said 4%. Yeah. Okay. Let's say it's 5%. It's not usually that high, but the federal government has no authority to do that. And all this is a legalized bribery system that they've established. And quite honestly, there's no such thing as a legal bribe.
Yeah. And I was just saying, for instance, for roads, that's one of the highest paying we get back. So for every dollar we send in, we get back 95 or 96 cents just for roads. You got to realize there's education, there's infrastructure, there's all these different things.
Yeah. On education, we get back about 4%.
There you go.
Yeah.
What I have a real problem with too is not only are they taking the revenues from the states and locals, but then they're just moving decimals in a computer and printing money. And I say that facetiously. They don't even print it anymore, right? They just create it out of thin air. Famously under Joe Biden, the ARPA funds, if anyone's familiar with that, he said, oh, we're going to do this infrastructure thing. It's going to be great. It's the anti-inflation bill. They just created a couple hundred billions of dollars and then went to the states and to the counties. And I had to deal with this and said, oh, Monroe County in Michigan, you want your $29 million? Here's what you have to do with it. Right. And then they stipulate or mandate and say, if you want some of your money back and also this created fiat money that's going to kill you in inflation, this is what you have to do with it. And it's really a crooked shell game is what it is. And we have very few states that will actually stand up and say, well, no, that's wrong. And two, we have sovereignty, we have autonomy. And not only are we not going to feed into that money game, but we're not going to accept anything from you or the mandates that come with it. And once states start doing that, and then you have elected officials like sheriffs that understand their authority, a lot of authority, and they just, once they get in position, take the kind of the big government side of things, I would say. I've met some sheriffs that, you would think they're the director of the FBI once they come into office and kind of take this authoritarian stance. It's a real difficult game that we're playing. We need more guys like you, sheriffs that understand states' rights, that rule with sovereignty, but also not authoritarian, but more libertarian, I would say.
Right, exactly. Very much so. The Constitution is very libertarian.
Yeah. So what we have now, let's shift gears here a little bit because we are airing this, about a month after a Trump reelection. We have a border crisis. And anyone who says we don't has never visited the southern border. It is absolutely horrendous. And everything you're talking about, states' rights being eroded, under Biden, you had, states saying, well, we're going to do something about it. And then the federal government coming back and saying, you better not uphold your laws or even federal laws, or we're going to start jailing and arresting some of the ICE members, some of the local deputy sheriffs and things like that, actually threatening them with jail for just upholding laws that are already on the books, which just blew my mind. Right. And it didn't get that much coverage in mainstream media. We know mainstream media has an agenda, obviously, and doesn't report on certain things. So do you see anything shifting under a Trump administration? Do you see anything getting any better or any laws being enforced? Or what's your thoughts in general on the border situation over the last 4, 6, 10, even 12 years?
Well, yes, I've during that time, I've been down to the border several times. It's only an hour and a half, hour and 15-minute drive from where I lived and where I was sheriff. Now I live in the Phoenix area, but the border, when Reagan granted amnesty to 3 million illegal aliens, it didn't seem to be that big of a deal back then. But it set a precedent that was a big deal, and it was a huge mistake. He shouldn't have done it. I'm all for border crossing work programs, but it's got to be handled properly, where the people go home and that they're not citizens and they do not get Social Security checks and they do not get free housing and free food and all these freebies from the government. The government has got to stop the freebies. You can't say, don't come here, but when you do, we'll give you free housing, free healthcare, free, all these freebies. That's ridiculous. It's stupid. And the taxpayers of this country have no responsibility to pay for them. If they want to come here and work, then their work is how they stay afloat. And that they send money back to their families, that's fine. But they need to go when the work is done. Seasonal work, they go back and they want to keep coming across. But they've ruined that now. The Biden administration, the Obama administration has ruined all of that. So now we have a Frankenstein monster that is now turning on us, destroying our country from within, because now this has allowed terrorists, cartels, and the worst enemies of America to infiltrate our country. And the Democrat Party was more than willing to have that happen and to risk national security for the increased voter rolls that these illegal aliens have provided them. But what it has done also, it has allowed the cartels to set up shop here. It has allowed international terrorists to set up shop here. Yes, from the Middle East, CCP dissidents are here. Russian dissidents are here. And they're ready to attack us from within. And anybody who thinks they're not is just ridiculously stupid, or you're selling something, because this is obvious what they're planning and what they're going to do. These groups that hate America are planning to do something. Are they planning to do something before Trump takes office, January 8th when they count the votes, or January 20th when he gets sworn in? This is not a good scenario. This is not a peaceful scenario. This is not one where any of us should be complacent or saying, hey, yeah, Trump's got this now. We've got to do work with them. And the CSPOA is putting it out that every sheriff needs to cooperate with and voluntarily assist the new Trump administration and Tom Homan in identifying the people that need to be sent home. And the sheriffs know the counties better than any other person on the face of the planet. And so the military, which is its only responsibility, would be allowed at the border. That's the only place they lawfully can go. So send the military to the border, have them stop the bleeding and stop the illegal immigration, and then have posses and sheriffs go and identify and help round them up.
Yeah, so I don't know why this is so hard for half of the voting population to understand. If I'm a bad actor, if I'm a bad guy, and I go, I want to cause harm to a country, and I look at their sovereign borders, and then I see a huge gaping hole, a porous area where I can easily get through. I don't care what country I'm from. That's the way I'm going in. Mexico has pretty lax immigration anyway. So let's say I'm from the Middle East or anywhere else, Asia, China, right? I would enter through that southern border. And that's pretty simple logic to me. If I'm a bad guy, right? If a dummy like me can figure that out, there's much smarter evil people that would go, okay, this is where we go.
And the cartels have helped them.
And why not, right? There's probably monetary benefits there and whatever deals they have worked out. So we have this huge issue. And I think that was really a referendum on why Trump won in all those swing states that were even the ones close to the border that they said, oh, he would never win because it's racist and misogynist and sexist and neo-Nazi and every adjective that they can think of, right? For just really rule of law. Right. And I would say you and I probably agree that we are not against legal immigration coming through the border the correct way, taking the citizenship test, having a background check, right? All those things. I think those are good things for the United States. But illegal aliens here breaking the law, committing crimes, and obviously planning terrorist attacks, we don't want. But yet we have half of the nation that seems to think that it's not an issue or they can't see the issue with it. And I'm hoping that under a Trump administration, we can at least sway some more people to understand the dire need we have in immigration, and organizations like yourself, which are rallying our locally elected sheriffs that do have a lot of authority. I know we spoke about it a little bit on the last time you were on, and that was some time ago. But just to reiterate, as a county commissioner myself, I understand the ultimate authority that a sheriff holds, and the way in most state constitutions it's written, they do have authority to enforce laws and even supersede the authority of federal agents in their jurisdiction because of state laws. And I fear I've talked to sheriffs that don't even really understand that, unfortunately. And I'm guessing you kind of go over that in your organization as well, of them understanding.
Well, we provide the training. We provide the training that the sheriffs need about that. And we train them on the Bill of Rights, but we train them on this case. And we train them on the oath of office. I'll bet you 90% of the sheriffs and public officials in this country don't even know why they swear an oath of allegiance to the Constitution. And it's actually required in Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution. Most of them don't know that. Most of them have not read the Constitution. Most of them don't know what the role of the sheriff and peace officers are when it comes to preserving our constitutional republic. Most of them don't even know that we are a republic. So we've got a lot of work to do to try to have the people have got to understand this too, because they are the only boss the sheriff has.
Yeah.
Folks, did you understand that? The county commissioners are not the boss of your sheriff. They work out they work out the budget. The commissioners work out the budget with your sheriff, but they're not his boss. He doesn't report to them. The county attorney is not his boss. He's a legal advisor. He can take his advice or tell him to shove it. There's one person he reports to, and that's the voters of his county. Yeah. And he is the ultimate authority to tell the federal government when and how they can come into his county. And they have very limited authority when it comes to law enforcement across this country. And so, I just want people to know what government is for and why we have government officials. And the federal government has gotten way out of control, and it's a bureaucratic nightmare in Washington, D.C. that is oppressing the people. Look at the crimes that the FBI has committed the last 10 years. Look at the IRS abuses and crimes that they have committed. Now the FDA and the DEA and all the other bureaucracies in Washington, D.C. are following suit. And somebody has got to stop this, and somebody has got to help with the deportation. And that would be the sheriffs working with the Trump administration to get our country back on track.
Yeah. So you bring up the FBI, which I want to ask you about this, because I'm in a unique position to where I have the utmost respect for authority. When I was younger, I wasn't allowed to call police officer cops. My dad would correct me and go, "You call them police officers."
I never thought that was a bad term or derogatory in any way.
But he said,
I know some people do that. Some judges make people do that.
Well, he just said, look, if they want to call each other cops, that's fine, but you're going to address them as police officer because they're officers of peace. And so I had this instilled in me at a young age that, yes, you can question authority, but you also respect it. Even biblically from where I believe that the Lord institutes civil governments to bring justice to evildoers and to protect the righteous, which is, I think, a good calling for police officers. So, but I also look at things and I go, and I wonder if you're in the same situation, Richard. That's why I'm going to ask this: is you were a constitutional sheriff, you're in law enforcement. Do you look at some of these agencies like the FBI and go, yeah, there needs to be reform there? Because unfortunately, sometimes I think if you're in law enforcement, you can kind of sometimes toe a line, right? And it happens in all professions. Like it's us versus them. If I step out and say something against this agency, then it looks like I'm betraying all my brothers in blue or, whatever color stripe you want to put on the flag. Where do you land on that? Do you look at the FBI now and go, yeah, there needs to be some type of reform, or are we okay with it? Or what would you do as a constitutional
Not okay
sheriff?
with it at all. My dad would be turning over in his grave. There's far too much dishonesty. There's far too much. The FBI is getting politicized. They need to be fair and open, and they're not. And they lied about the Russian hoax. They lied about the Hunter Biden computer laptop. They got involved in this. They tried to help the Biden campaign. They tried to help Hunter Biden because of that. They've gotten in way too big. Gary Aldrich, a former FBI agent, wrote a book about 25, 30 years ago that described how the FBI was used as political hitman. It happened during the Nixon administration, big time, that he pitted the CIA against the FBI. And too many presidents have used the IRS especially to go after their political enemies. And these agencies are rogue, they're criminal, they're way out of line. And quite honestly, I would actually prefer abolishing the FBI and starting completely over as to what the federal government has authority to do. CIA is another one that needs to be completely undone and revamped and reorganized because they have gotten to where they answer only to themselves. IRS, same thing. If we could abolish the IRS, that would be very easy. If Congress would make the income tax, and we can argue about whether there should be a federal income tax, which Trump has actually more than just hinted that we need to get rid of. We do. But let's just keep it that if if Congress was honest and fair with the American people, the tax would be on a postcard. It would fit on a postcard. Yet they have 77,000 pages of their IRS income tax code. It is crazy. And it just gives them power over us and control over us, which they should not have and do not have lawfully. So make the tax code simple. You read on the postcard, if this is what you made, this is what you pay. And it'd be graduating up to the richer people, and no one would pay over 12%. No one would pay over 12%. And if it was fair and honest, but no, they won't be. And so the Republicans have had their chance to defund Planned Parenthood before. They didn't do it. They've never revamped or brought in the IRS. So, folks, if the Trump administration doesn't take care of defunding Planned Parenthood, abolishing the IRS, getting rid of the criminals in Washington, D.C., then I'm going to say, why did we change? Is this just the pendulum swinging back and forth and nothing ever happens? I believe in Trump, and I believe that he wants to do what's right. But we've been in this place before, and I want to make sure that we really get back to our constitutional principles.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny. I heard someone tell me, with all the primary and secondary taxes that you pay, and there are a lot of secondary, right? Hunting licenses, car registration. These are all, speeding tickets for 1 mile an hour over, property tax, death tax, real estate tax, sales tax, right?
Taxation through citation. You brought that up. That's what I call it. Citations are just taxes.
Yeah. Well, it's like you pay about 50% when it's all added up. And I heard a preacher say once, God only asked for 10. The federal government wants 50%.
Amen.
So,
exactly.
And I'm open to like a flat tax or it could be progressive, but it would have to be, like you said, that 12% or less. I'd even like to see 8 or 9 and then make it up on a VAT tax or something, because an income tax really is a form of economic slavery. I've had this argument with some of my more liberal friends. They said, if you work for me and I take 100% of your wages, you'd call that slavery, right? And they go, yeah. Right. I said, well, what if I took 99%? And gave you 1%. So what number does an income tax not become a form of slavery? And they really can't tell you. I know they've done a lot of studies and they show anything taxed over 32%, production goes down by about 50% because people go, well, why should I work so hard? So they've really found that the sweet spot, and I can't remember the name, it was a husband and wife economist. They did a study out of California, no less. And they found about 12% is where productivity and taxation is in balance. That seems to be the human nature, 10, 12, 13%. After that, people start slowing down on productivity because they go, well, if the government's going to take the money anyway, I don't need to work for that bonus. It's going to get taxed at 40%. I don't need, right? So we could talk tax policy all day, but I think that goes to a larger issue.
It destroys it destroys human initiative.
Yeah.
And that's really the problem with socialism and communism.
And it's really crazy to me. You go back to the Obama administration when was it Lois Lerner who was targeting conservatives with the IRS, and then
when she was brought in to talk about it, she raised her right arm and swore because she was being questioned by Congress. She pleaded the Fifth Amendment, said nothing. So, she said, I haven't done anything wrong. I plead the Fifth, and she retired.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's part of the referendum on what happened here in 2024 too, is a lot of people woke up to the fact that yes, we're being lied to in the media. Yes, our government officials and bureaucrats don't care. They lie, they do deals, they do all this stuff. It's a very seedy place, Washington, D.C., and unfortunately a lot of state capitals. I've always found the more local you go, one, you have a little more control, and two, you have a little more accountability by the voters, which is why I like organizations like yours going, we need to get to the sheriffs. We need to get to the county commissioners. We need to get to the supervisors and trustees, the ones that are actually making making these resolutions or ordinances or laws, however you want to phrase it, at the local level. One thing I do like about Trump, and this will go along with what you're saying, Richard. I was at the White House in 2017 and 18, one of 50 county commissioners, both times, that were invited down by Trump. And he sat down with us. He was only there for about 15 minutes, but for 8 hours, we sat with his Department of Energy, Homeland Security, his Interior Secretary of Interior, about 8 or 9 guys, and they just grilled us. And they said, what are we doing at the federal government that is hindering the locals, or what are you guys doing at the local level that could help us at the federal level to let you guys do what you do and get out of our way? Yeah. That was 2 years in a row. No president has ever done it before or since. And I looked at that and I went, okay, well, here's at least an administration that kind of understands what the grassroots have been talking about. Guys like you and me going, yeah, we have this huge autonomous federal government that bears down tyranny on the locals and, trickle down to it. And here's a president that takes time with his secretaries to go, what can we do to get out of your way? What are we doing wrong? What regulations do we need to remove? And let's not forget, in 2017, Trump's administration got rid of more regulation than any other president before or since. Right. And I think that really helped with the economy boom in 17, 18, and 19. Obviously, 2020 hit and COVID hit, and there were some different things there, and we can argue on what we agree and disagree with Trump on that. But my point is he had this, his administration had this idea of, it is important to sit down with the locally elected. There were sheriffs there, township supervisors there, county commissioners there. I don't think people understand how important that is at the local level to make change within the local level. Right. And that's an outgrowth of then how we can reflect the state and federal levels, which it sounds like is what your organization's doing.
Yeah, that's part of what we're about. No question. And it's that the sheriffs and county commissioners need to establish some safeguards and make sure that the federal government is obeying and following these. And it's called the Constitution. What if your county made a resolution, sent it to the White House and Congress and local authorities in your state and county, and said the Constitution, specifically the Bill of Rights, will be enforced by the sheriff's office in this county strictly? Who does that hurt? The only person it hurts is a tyrant. The only person it hurts is somebody so arrogant in their own position and narcissistic in their own position. You can't tell me what to do. I'm with the federal government. You're nothing. You were meant to be nothing. Very limited. The federal government only has very limited authority and powers. And that's right out of my case. Scalia said that, only quoting the Constitution's conferral upon Congress of not all governmental powers, but only discrete enumerated ones. That's in this case, folks. You've got to get this book. You've got to see what this did for America, what it did for federalism and the division of powers between the states and the federal government. It says in here that the federal government, that the Constitution established a system of dual sovereignty, that the states have dual sovereignty with the federal government, and they share the supremacy. And that needs to be remembered. And nobody teaches that anymore. Oh, the federal government is just in charge of everything. They're not. Yeah. But if we let them, they're going to be. And we've got to take that back. And folks, you have to be involved in the process. Just like Greg said, we can change all of this at the local level. You can't go to Washington, D.C. and change very much. I think maybe now with what you were saying, because Trump is open. I know the meetings he had with local officials, especially sheriffs, 3 or 4 times while he was president. Folks, there is a solution, and it's county by county. We must restore the Constitution. The Bill of Rights must be the sanctuary. Your county must be the sanctuary for the Bill of Rights because it protects the civil rights of all people. And freedom is for everyone of all races, creeds, colors, nationalities. It doesn't matter. Freedom is for everyone. And Washington, D.C. just does not get that. We hope that change is on the horizon.
Okay. Absolutely agree. So as we wrap this up here, let's say we have a listener out there. They've went to is it CSPOA?
Yes, CSPOA.org.
CSPOA.org. They've gotten the book. They've gotten the material. They go, okay, I'm on board. Trump won, but we need to keep fighting for states' rights and for local autonomy. What are some practical things that the average American can do to help further that cause?
First of all, you want to go have a conversation with your sheriff and your county commissioners, but start with your sheriff and ask him if he's a constitutional sheriff. Ask him what he would do if Kamala had got elected and they started confiscating guns. Obviously, Trump is not going to do that now. So we don't have to worry about that, maybe for four years, if they still allow Trump to get in. Folks, there's still a lot to do before Trump actually gets in. One is the certification of the vote on January 8th. Okay? Then he's got inauguration day. And I sure hope that they have him covered and secured very well.
Yeah, how quickly we forget 2 assassination attempts on the campaign trail. And the very first one, some very fuzzy facts surrounding it, and we really haven't heard anything about it.
Obviously, we can't trust the federal government to take care of the president. So folks, you've got to be involved in the process, and it doesn't take that long. But go talk to your county commissioners. We can help you with all of this. Be part of our posse, and we can help you work in your area with your posse or with your county commissioners and make your county a constitutional sanctuary and list the Bill of Rights as the supreme law of your county, and that they will be enforced. And you get your sheriff and county commissioners to send that notice to all federal bureaucracies and all state bureaucracies. In Michigan, you would have quite a bit of work to do that, but you don't need your state's permission to become constitutional and to be focused on civil rights for everyone. And this is a peaceful and effective process to take back our individual freedoms and liberties. And so start with your sheriff, start with your county commissioner. And folks, we already have the templates for all of this. We already are doing it. We're going all over Florida making constitutional counties. Virginia did 106 sanctuary counties for the Second Amendment. All we ask is that they take that to the next level and say not just the Second Amendment, but all the amendments, especially the first 10, which are the Bill of Rights. So let's restore liberty county by county.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I think I'm going to steal that saying. You don't need the state's permission to be constitutional. That's a t-shirt right there.
Oh, good.
All right. Sheriff Richard Mack, thank you so much for coming on the program again. Shout out to everyone and we'll link up below, guys, but where can they get that material? And then if you've got any social media handles or anything you want to throw out there for people to follow you, go ahead and throw them out to the people right now.
Yeah, we're out there. What's Don? What's our social media? You know.
If not, I can find it and I'll link
it.
I
think she said she sent it to you, but anyway, yes, we're out there on all of them. I don't use them as much as I just want to use people email. You want to email me, sheriffmack@hotmail.com, and then just go to CSPOA, CSPOA.org, make a donation, become a member of our posse, and folks, let's take this seriously. This is our solution. This is our peaceful and effective solution for the cause of liberty today. It's just as important as it was in 1776. Let's be involved. Let's be doers of the word, not just hearers. And let's take this back and let's get the sheriffs active with Trump to make this a peaceful process for deportation. Talk to your sheriff about working with Trump in deporting the illegals, especially the criminal element that is here.
Yeah. So good. Thank you so much for being on again, Sheriff Mack. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Greg. See you soon.
Hey, guys, thanks again for listening to another episode of Dead Men Walking Podcast. As always, you can find out more about us at dmwpodcast.com or find us on socials anywhere at Dead Men Walking Podcast. Remember, the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. God bless. Be sure to check us out at DMWpodcast.com, where you can purchase the best and snarkiest merch on the internet, support the show, and leave us a review or message. Dead Men Walking can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Dead Men Walking Podcast, and on Twitter X at Real DMW Podcast. The Dead Men Walking Podcast is part of the Fight Laugh Feast Network. For exclusive show content, be sure to download the Pub TV app and become a member. If you're a business that needs to reach hundreds of thousands of potential customers in your demographic, podcast advertising might be for you. Send all inquiries to deadmenwalkingpodcast@gmail.com.
None your biscuit.